Welcome everyone, I'm Ronojoy Shah and I'm honored to have with me today eminent historian Manu Pillai. Currently a PhD scholar at the King's College London, Manu has authored books like The Ivory Throne, The Deccan Sultans and The Courtesan, The Mahatma and The Italian Brahmin. Manu, welcome.
Thank you.
You have extensively talked about the matrilineal society of Travancore and Cochin in your speeches. You also belong from a matrilineal society yourself. So when and where do you think the matrilineal society succumbed to the patriarchal society that we see today?
I think to answer the first part of your question, it was because I come from a matrilineal family that the interest was triggered in the first place. So by the time I was growing up, it was very unusual. Everybody came from patrilineal sort of settings. So in that sense, it was something new even for me to discover. It started changing in Kerala mainly during the Victorian period. Under colonialism, there were certain ideas about what a family unit should look like, what women should look like, how they should dress, how they should be as wives, whether or not they should have control over property, and so on and so forth. So it was it was the Victorianization of that period in the 19th century that led to the slow decline of matrilineal in Kerala.
Okay, so in your book, The Courtesan, The Italian Brahmin, you have like three speculative essays like what if the British never happened to India, then what if the Rayas were still, did not decline? And so how did you come across this idea of anti-speculative essays? Like, and what do you want to achieve through it?
Nothing. Speculative writing is actually very naughty. I just did it basically as these three that you refer to are just newspaper columns, and I was just playing around to see, because we often think that if the British hadn't come, then we would all be speaking Sanskrit, for example, and so on, which is not true, because I realized it was actually Persian. Till the 1830s, Persian was used as the language of trans-regional conversations. So the Maharani of Travancore in the 1810s, when she's writing a letter to the governor of Madras, who's white, who's an Englishman, it's in Persian. So it was just that, what we think India would have looked like if colonialism wasn't there. The argument I was trying to make is that may not actually have been how things turned out. So it wouldn't have been Sanskrit, it would have been Persian, most likely. Similarly, the map of India would not have looked the way it does today. A lot of it would have been slightly different and so on. So I was just playing around really with some of those thoughts. For anybody who does history, it's actually pretty naughty business to do anything that's speculative.
Okay, now more like opinion-based question. Like, who is your most favorite or the more aspirational woman character throughout history?
Wow, there's quite a few. There's women in mythology, there's women in actual history.
One mythology and one history.
Well, I don't know about aspirational, but the one mythological character I'm very fascinated by is Amba. Amba is a fascinating story. The vengeance, the rage, the power, and also the queering of of her personality. Yeah. And so I think that's one interesting character from the epics. In terms of history, if you read my Courtesan, the Mahatma, and the Italian Brahmin, I think a lot of the courtesans are often women of agency, women of education, women of means, and they're interesting. Yeah, they're interesting women. And again, that Victorian process turned them into just dancing girls. As if that was the sum total of their personality. So I think, I wouldn't have a name as such, but I think the courtesans are an interesting category of historical women to look at.
And ever since I've followed you on Instagram and I have read your books, my most primary, like, what do you mean by what coconut? Where did that come from?
See, when somebody speaks rubbish, we say, what nonsense are you talking, right? But my father, in his thick South Indian accent, used to say, what coconut are you talking? And it was just, I picked it up from there and turned that into my status update when I was, in my early 20s, I guess. And then since then, I've sort of raked in a lot of followers and so on, and now it doesn't feel like I want to change it. Why must one change it? Just because it seems, let's say, funny and one is supposed to look more serious and all that. Not true. I've stuck to my what coconut in memory of my late father, I guess.
Like, you have branded coconut literally, like the other day I think you posted something, the judgmental coconut.
I actually have a photograph of me as a little kid trying to climb a coconut tree, so clearly the love affair with coconuts is not new.
Thank you, Manu, for taking out time from your schedule to give this small interview. I really appreciate it.